what's up, everyone? Thanks for listening to the Way Too Serious podcast. This is your host here, Jerry Larson.
Hey, what's up? It's Josh. How's it going, man?
Dude, it's going good. What's that shirt you're wearing? It looks pretty cool. What is that?
I think it's like a Gildan shirt, size medium.
You're just mentioning exactly what that is.
Yeah.
It looks like merch for very familiar with the Way Too Serious podcast. You know, it looks like merch or something. How'd you get that merch?
It's merch. I mean, it's trying to promote this podcast. What better way than slapping something on a shirt? Putting our name out there, you know, free advertisement. We love free advertisement. So yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's free advertisement. I mean, it costs us $16 a t-shirt, but for you it is. Yeah. Free advertisement. But yeah, hopefully if you guys watch the video version of this, Josh is sporting some t-shirts. We've been looking into some merch and stuff as this first season is nearing the approach of an end after a few more episodes to close out season 1. But we have another model here. It's got a big circle with our normal logo as well. If you are listening to just the audio version, definitely make sure to at least listen to the first 3 minutes to see if you're interested in looking at what the merch is supposed to look like. These are just some ideas that we're open to. So a bunch of different colors. In the next few weeks, you'll be seeing a couple other merch being worn throughout the episodes. Something that we're really excited about.
Or maybe even drank out of. I mean, who knows? Who's to say?
Oh, you broke the secret. I wasn't going to tell anybody about that one.
I mean, it's still a secret. They don't know what it is. What am I drinking? I mean, who knows?
I don't even know. I'm going to guess it might be a flask. A Way Too Serious podcast flask.
I mean, maybe that's a season 2 thing that they'll have to be on the lookout for, though.
Season 2 flask. I love it. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, though, outside of like the merch, I know I got distracted there, but things are going swell. It's springtime almost. It's not quite technically spring by the calendar, but as the weather starts to improve outside, it's getting nice. So last week I told you about that gardening thing I ordered. It came in. So guess what I'm doing this weekend? I'm going to be gardening.
You're going to make the whole garden? You're going to get hot peppers? You're going to get lettuce? You're going to have the whole shebang?
No, we've been over this. It's not my whole backyard. It's limited to 4 feet, dude. That's
I mean, if you bought like 10 of them, you could technically fill up the whole backyard.
That's true, but I don't think I'm trying to get that serious into it. That's way too serious, man. I can't do that.
Maybe you can go multi-level. I mean, stack it on each other and just build up. It's like Jenga blocks.
I don't think that's how planting works. I think good try though, and then I need a ladder.
I mean, look at greenhouses, man. They stack up.
I don't think I want a ladder to have to get up to my next tier of gardening, but
you're missing out. Darn.
Oh man, how are you doing? How's everything going for you?
I've been doing swell because you said swell. I'll join the group. I've been swell. Weather's been hectic up here in Michigan. It's been flopping back and forth between cold, hot, rainy now. I mean, we're kind of experiencing all of the 4 seasons right now. And for those that aren't aware, this weekend we get to reset our clocks. We're recording this on March 8th, March 9th, and the March 10th. You got to put those clocks 1 hour back. No, it's forward because it's spring forward. That's right. So you lose an hour of sleep. So you're welcome for your reminder. And if you're listening to this next week, which you will be, or 2 weeks out, sorry, you lost your sleep. You're probably caught up on it at this point, though. So,
man, that's a bummer. You kind of put a damper on my morning because I didn't.
Sorry,
I honestly forgot. I don't keep up with that stuff because normally, it's 2024, so typically your clock just updates on its own when you're like. You just pull out your phone. Thanks, satellite. It tells me it's the new time. I really don't know. I don't know. Even my smart clock.
Grumpier than you usually are, and you're like, "Huh? Why do I feel so grumpy this morning?" And you're like, "Oh, it's because I lost an hour of sleep."
Yeah, that's definitely not a me thing. I think I wake up like chipper every morning, dude. I've never experienced grumpy.
I think I wake up pretty happy usually. We have a sunrise clock that goes off at like 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's kind of like watching the sunrise, but not like the real sun. But it's a nice wake up versus like your alarm just blaring at you, making loud noises. You just have lights slowly creep into your eyes. And you're like, this is actually kind of pleasant.
Oh, that's interesting. I My alarm clock just starts playing like some weird loud noise. I didn't even know about sunrise clocks, but that sounds very intriguing.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
it's something about like your circadian movement or something. I'm probably misquoting what it's actually called. But
Circadian rhythm, is that what you're
yeah,
talking
I
about?
think that's the thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, we could. I mean, unless you want to define what circadian movement is, we can redefine the world, man. Circadian movement. Let's do it.
I mean, what do they say? The world is my oyster. Um, yeah, it's my oyster.
It is your oyster. If you want the world to be your oyster today, let it be your oyster. But you don't even like seafood,
I
so
don't. I had a wellness checkup this past week, and the guy was telling me he's like, "Oh, like you got to get these up, like your triglycerides up." And he's like, "Oh, like seafood's a good one." And I was like, "I'm allergic to seafood." And he looked at me and he's like, "Never mind, don't do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do that."
hey, you can. I was gonna say, what's the saying? You can't say that you never tried, or can you? I don't know. Have you ever tried seafood? How did you figure out the allergy? Did you just like
I
eat it
did.
one day?
It was during a high school Spanish class, and there's some seafood and something. My tongue swelled up basically, and I started talking like I was 5, and people were laughing at me. But the Spanish teacher was like freaking out because she was like, "Oh shoot! Like this was bring in food day, like because we're just supposed to make Spanish dishes." And basically, that was like I think the last Spanish dish day because of me, and I feel kind of bad, but also I don't because they didn't put a disclaimer on there that said this has seafood in it. So I was like, huh, this tastes interesting. 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 Is this seafood? And someone's like, oh yeah, it's got a little salmon in it. I was like, I'm
Oh man,
allergic.
man, I need to know like because I didn't know this was going on back then when they had bring your own food in. But did somebody bring Taco Bell? I just need to know if some person in your class decided like,
No, they did
oh, let me
not
bring
bring
Taco
Taco
Bell.
Bell. You're supposed to make the dish. So I tried making dulce de leche, and it turned out terribly. So I ended up just making
Mm.
cookie cake and ice cream, and I brought that in instead. And I showed them the dulce de leche cake, and I was like, if anybody wants to try it, you can, but it also tastes really bad, so you might not want to try it. So I brought cookie cake and ice cream. But I do know that somebody in one of my classes was like, we always did like like, where did you use Spanish this past weekend? And someone's like, I went to Taco Bell. Live
Oh
Mas.
my gosh, dude, that is ridiculous. Like, I want to know the interaction. So after your tongue started swelling, what was the next words out of your mouth? Did you say "mi tongue is muy guapo" or like, or is that the right? How do you say big?
Mo Grande?
Muy grande. There you go. Guapo, I think is ugly, huh?
Yeah.
That could work too if you have a swollen tongue.
I
Mi
think
tongue is muy
I raised
guapo.
my hand and I was like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she was like, "Yes, is everything okay?" I think my tongue is swelling up. And she's like, "Oh, can I see it?" And like my tongue was like fat, and I was like, I think I need to go to the bathroom." And she was like, "Okay." And you could tell she was like panicking, and I was like, "Eh."
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy interaction. That's a crazy story. I didn't know like I knew you had mentioned you're allergic to seafood, but I guess I've never asked like how that came about. But wow. Yeah, I mean, for all the viewers out there and listeners, just if you need any help with Spanish, just live Moss. Go to Taco Bell. This is our shameless plug for the episode. Taco Bell sponsor us. No, I'm
I
just
don't know
playing.
if I want to be sponsored by them. Maybe Mountain Dew sponsor us. I mean, you got Baja Blast.
Dude, don't even get me started. If I start seeing Baja Blast go into a zero sugar can and they start carrying that at the store,
Oh, it's over.
oh man, game over. You'll never see me again. I'm going to be on a sugar high for the rest of my life.
Well, not sugar
Enjoying.
high because it has no sugar.
Well, I don't 100% believe that, which is interesting because speaking of conspiracy theories, we reached the quota that you had mentioned when you set the bar very low.
Set the
So
bar very low. We're doing a conspiracy podcast.
we are going to do a conspiracy theory podcast episode. And one of those conspiracies could be, is zero sugar soda actually zero sugar? Do you believe that? Or do you think they're falsifying the ingredients that they write on the can. I wasn't in the lab. I couldn't tell you. Maybe I'll go get a job there for a week just to figure it out. Report back to you and tell you they put sugar in it. Just a small amount. Shocker, right? Shocker.
I don't know if it's really a shocker, honestly, at this point. I think everything. Oh my gosh, this is just like a quick aside. So going with like the whole seafood thing, Dad one time was cooking. I think it was like something for lunch, but he asked me. He's like, "Oh yeah, it was pretty good, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't bad." I forgot what it was, but then he like nonchalantly slipped in. Oh, I put a little bit of fish in it, and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I just want to see if you're allergic or not." And I'm like, "Dude, you can't do that."
And then immediately your tongue starts to swell. You're like, I just ate like 6 of these.
Yeah. No, it was pretty funny looking back on that, because it's like, that is funny, but at the same time, I don't think I would ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of those things where you kind of sneak something in without someone's consent, because you're like, oh, I'm kind of curious. Let me just sneak this thing in. Like, oh yeah, I did kill that person. Whoops, my bad. Like, dude, why would you do that? It's just insane. That's funny. Well, anyways, this is not the conspiracy theory episode. For those who've been listening and following us, we are on part 2 of our segment on identity crisis. Last week we talked a bit about people who take identities way too serious, and this week we are continuing that conversation, talking about more of the professional work world and how people in their careers take their career way too serious, where that becomes their identity, where people tend to fall on the side where they're not really, they take their work identity home. That's who they are. When they're out with their friends, they're talking about work nonstop. They're people that just only identify with that, where it's almost, it's kind of, it makes like a part where it hurts them outside in the real world, where they're not able to just be themselves, right? So like, you've experienced that. I know that for sure. You've seen some people like that in the work world. Tell me about an experience that you've had with that.
Yeah, I would just say in my line of work, you see those people that take that home with them, and it's great. You're passionate about it. I don't want to get this mixed up as like a personal witch hunt and an attack on those people that are passionate about what they do, because that's great. You love your job, and you're passionate about it. You want to be better. You want to strive to be better. In the cybersecurity field, it's a passion. I mean, I understand it. Like, you get that rush where like maybe you're just like doing ethical hacking. It's fun. I understand that. It's the people that then take it to the next level where they get on you. They're wondering. They're like, how come you're not like going and doing all these things like off the clock? So like you come back and like and do that, and they expect you to answer emails at like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And if you're not on call, you're not going to answer the email. It's understanding where the boundaries are. And in my line of work, I've seen people that will not respect those boundaries. So you have to put up those huge blockers basically that say like, after 5 o'clock, I'm off the clock. Like, I don't let this bleed into my night. I don't want this to bleed into my night. And I don't want to feel bad for the fact that I have a life outside of work. Like, and I understand when crap hits the fan too. Like, you have to like tend to that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely, I've seen this multiple times. There's been multiple instances. They all kind of are the same. They're like a super fan of their job, and that's where they find their identity in is that job. Which, power to you. I mean, what makes you happy at the end of the day, great. But don't berate somebody because they're not putting in like, they're not going past that 9 to 5. I mean, it's a 9 to 5. You work to make your life better. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
Your life isn't your work. Like,
Yeah. And it's funny you're talking about this even now in like 2024, where I've experienced a lot of like being in the Bay Area. At least the buzzword that goes around is, hey, make sure you have a good work-life balance, right? And you can't really have that good work-life balance if you're so ingrained in your work where you take that home with you. You're responding to emails 7, 8 at night. I've been in that line of work where I had to set that bar. Like, I was like, no, this is where I'm drawing the line. Like, I am not going to identify as this, as the end all be all of who I am. Like Jerry Larson is this guy who's only understanding what he does at work. Outside of that, I'm a drone, right? Like I come home, I'm just going to do my normal functions that I do. I'm not going to enjoy the rest of my night. I'm going to be thinking about everything I'm going to do tomorrow just to be successful in this job. And like, I don't know. I think as I think about it and as I was listening to you speak about it, it's funny because sometimes the media and like the culture plays into that stuff a lot too. Like, I was thinking of this clip of this video where, like you see people go out, right? And they're at a bar and they're trying to meet somebody. And this person's like, hey, what do you do for work? And then he's like, oh, I'm a doctor. And then the girl just like kind of just like almost faints over this guy, right? Because he's a doctor. Like, oh man, this doctor. And it's like that is what we're trying to get across, right? Like that identity. At the end of the day, it's impressive. Like you've gone to school enough to like become a doctor. Like, God bless all those people who are doctors or in the medical field that help us when we're not feeling so great and they help people get better and stuff. Like, thank you for all their hard work and stuff. But when you take that home and that's all you identify in, like, it's like, well, like, what do you do after the 9 to 5? What do you do for fun? Like, I had a project manager once, like I told her, like, this is where I work, I need to go home. I'm studying for this exam, for the certification that's going to help me in our line of work. Like when I was told to take this course, I was told that this would work into my 40-hour work week. Needless to say, I had to get my actual supervisor involved to say, hey, like this is where we're drawing the line. This guy's cutting out early because he's doing a 2-hour class once a week. Like that's part of his working hours. He wants to have a good work-life balance. And like I was told, like, no, you got into this field of consulting for a reason. Like, doesn't it sound great that you get to work 60 hours and get paid the same amount of money if you work 40 hours? Like, we're giving you that opportunity for the experience. Like, it's the experience that matters. And like, it's funny because this company tried to undersell me on like salary when they first offered me a job and said, oh, like, yeah, you're taking a massive pay cut, but what about the experience? Well, I don't identify in that. And if you aren't giving me the green, if you ain't paying me the big bucks that I want to get paid, I'm not going to come in that excited. Like you're asking me to take a massive pay cut, come here and give you guys quality work. Like I don't identify in my job. I'm a professional, I know what I'm doing. Yes. And when I'm there at the office working for a company, I'm going to give my 100% effort of what I know and my specialties into that job. As soon as 5 o'clock hits, man, that cell phone goes off, the work phone, the emails don't get checked till the next morning. Like, I'm not going to identify in that personally. Like, I've been there where I've done that and I've experienced that where I've taken my identity home and I found myself like stressed out where I had to go through some extreme stuff of vertigo for a little while. Like I was stressed out at work and at home where I couldn't even see straight. And that was not very fun. So, I mean, just a note to all the viewers and listeners out there, like if you are in that boat where you're taking your job like way too serious, where that's your identity, like make sure to give yourself a reality check. Take a step back. Take the Ebenezer Scrooge, like look at it, right? Like look from above as the spirit and look at your life below and just say, is this something I need to take a step back and like not identify so much? Like be proud in the work that you do. We're not saying, like Josh said, this is not a witch hunt. We're not trying to like downplay, hey, stop taking your job too serious. Like take it serious as much as possible as you can, but make sure you shut that door at 5 o'clock. Like don't be one of those people where it ruins your work-life balance. Like we're all humans at the end of the day trying to just make it through life, and like you can't do that if you take and identify way too seriously into your job identity.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. It's not on the people. I'm not going to blame the people entirely. There was a job interview, not the current company I'm at, but it was one I was interviewing for. And basically, the way it was portrayed to me at the interview was, we're looking for somebody that lives and breathes security. We want somebody that's like passionate about that. And they asked me quite a few questions, like, what do you do like off hours to like make yourself better in the field and stuff like that? And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I try to set aside some personal development time during the day at my job to get better on it. And they were kind of put off by that answer almost, where I was like, okay, like, I feel like I shouldn't be faulted for saying I use company time to make myself better at my profession so I
Yeah.
can give back to the company, and that was seen as a negative in their eyes. So it's not all companies out there in corporate America. There's actually quite a few good companies out there that do give you that leeway, and I'm lucky enough to be at a company that does want to invest in you during the workday, afford you that opportunity. But that job I had interviewed, like, they were really hammering on that. They didn't care about the technical expertise. They wanted that person that, like, lived and breathed security, and I'm like, "That's great. I hope you find that person." But you can't limit your scope to those people. That's not fair to ask someone to do that. So it's not entirely on each individual. I think that there are some companies out there that also give that toxic workplace where they expect you to do that 9 to 5 and then
Mhm.
go home and make yourself better for the job so you can get back to the company on your time, though.
Yeah. You should have answered him and told him something like, "Yeah, when I go home, I just like pop on my DVD player and I watch the movie Jobs over and over again, just on repeat, like to be inspired by the innovation behind Steve Jobs, or better yet, I just pop on Silicon Valley. I watch that on repeat all the time. I
Silicon
don't
Valley.
get it." Yeah, what a great show! Like, can you imagine if you answered that and they're like, "What is Silicon Valley?" Oh, it's this show that was aired on it was on Comedy Central, I think, but like, or maybe it was on HBO, I think
HBO. It
actually.
was HBO.
Yeah, it's a show on HBO where they basically like make comedy of like people who take tech way too serious. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
they're like,
just when we were
what
talking
a
about like kind of like the topic of workaholics, it kind of makes me think of the show Workaholics, where they're not even remotely workaholics, like at all.
yeah, that show cracks me up too. Like watching them, like, I mean, that's not a good example of work-life balance. That's a good example of like life
Like,
balance. But they're like making work their life to an extent where they're like just going in and screwing around, like to the point where I think their weed dealer even shows up at their office at times in some of the episodes.
yeah,
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame to see that there are companies out there like that don't understand like the true work life balance where it plays into like identity crisis. And like, the flip side of that is when people do identify in the profession they're in or the like things that they own, things like that nature. The sad part is that I really don't like about identity crisis is like people identify with what they own, what their status is in life, to where they're degrading other people. Like the degradation of human beings that don't have what they have. Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, if only you had what I had because you work so hard. Like sometimes some of those people just fell on a fat stack of cash, man. Like, and they act like they're entitled to where, oh, if only you worked as hard as I did. Like, I don't know. Like I just can't get with that if someone's like making someone feel bad about where they're at. Like life is a journey at the end of the day. Like, let people go through that.
Speaking to that topic of like what you own and stuff like that, I've got a story about. I was in the car market. This was back when I was in college. I had a Chevy Cruze. Nice car for a college age kid. It was brand new. I had it for like a couple years, but I was like, okay, like just curious, like what I'd get for it. And I took it over to this one place where we're from back in Central Illinois, and they're a Mercedes Audi dealership. And they're really demeaning to you if you come in with like a car that's not an Audi, Mercedes, or any of the cars they were selling. Or a Subaru. I was interested in a Subaru because I was like, oh yeah, Subarus, they always preach how those like last a long time. And I went there and literally they insulted me. Like my car was worth probably about like 14, 15 grand at the time. And they're like, we'll give you 6 grand. And I was like, that's well below even Kelly Blue Book. They're like, well, we don't really want to sell it here. And I was like, okay, then say that. Don't disrespect me and waste my time though. And there was another instance where this was back when I bought my I've been through a few cars, just so the listeners know. I've been through a few cars. We both have been through a few cars. Um, but I had a Nissan Altima even, and even then, when I was looking at different cars, because I was trying to get an SUV, get a more of a family car, um, they were very nasty. Like they treat you differently if you don't have that kind of car, and I think that's just a perfect example. They're like we identify as like this place that and all of our workers are like we sell the best kind of cars out there. Which, yes, Mercedes are nice vehicles, Audis are nice vehicles, Subarus are all right. I think it's kind of a cult car, if I'm being honest. I mean, if you drive a Subaru, that's great, power to you. We don't really discriminate up against what kind of car you drive because that defeats the purpose of us giving this podcast. But
you almost joined a cult. You admitted to that.
I did. I almost did. It's like a whole initiation and everything. But man, they were just like, they don't want your cars and they treat you like dirt. And it really got on my nerves because I'm like, my car is actually a pretty nice car. Like, you remember my Nissan Altima? It was a nice looking car. Like, it wasn't a piece of crap. And they basically were like, yeah, we can't sell that here. And I'm like, okay, like, the BMW dealership didn't have a problem with like giving me like a price. And it's like, so what's up with you guys? And they're like, it's just a lot harder to do. Maybe if you want to sell that at the BMW dealership, you can come back and look at our cars if you're interested. Like, we'd love to have your business. And I'm like, I bet you would. But no. If you don't want to buy my car, don't tell me to go sell it and come back.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, my experience at those like high-end dealerships was just that I went there just out of the blue. I didn't actually bring a trade-in to go for like mine when I went to the Mercedes dealership. So I like traded. I think I just walked in and leased one of their cars, and like I didn't get that vibe from them. I think they all do drive Mercedes, but they get like their corporate discounts, so they're able to afford them. They also probably make pretty good money selling Mercedes, I would imagine. I don't know for sure, but yeah, it's just kind of, it's demeaning, like, I mean, we talked about this a few episodes ago. It might have even been earlier on when we first started, was the analogy of like a garbage man, right? Like a lot of people living the dream was like becoming a garbage man or something. And then like that person dies, if that's what you wanted to be, that's cool. Like being a garbage man was their dream. Like they wanted to do that. And the funny thing is that I don't think a lot of viewers or like people know about, as crappy as that job sounds to us, garbage men actually make a 6-figure salary. I don't know if people know that. So like, and that's pretty much nationally around the United States. It's not just like because they work loads of overtime. I'm talking like a 40-hour base work week. These guys are out there raking in 6-figure salaries. And yeah, it's probably because of the nature of the job. No one wants to do it. No one wants to go out and do the like dirty work of like picking up trash. The reality is it's not as bad as it sounds. I don't think, I've never done it, but to my knowledge, just from observing, the guy is driving a truck and just, it has a robotic arm, picks up the can, dumps it, and he's done. And he just has to drive that around. I imagine it doesn't smell the greatest from like sitting in the front of the truck, but like, I can imagine that. He's making bank, yeah. But if he was to go out and go to grab a drink or something and meet a nice lady or something like that, or vice versa, if it was a lady that did like garbage truck driving or something and relayed that information to a guy at a bar, like that person's going to judge them based on their career. Like, and that's not what they identify as. They could be a nice, genuine person. That's just the field of work they chose to be in. And because of that, people are discriminated against. Like, I don't really want to talk to you anymore. Like, they could be a nice looking person. They could be whoever, like to your eyes or that person's eyes. They talk, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm a garbage truck man.
Yeah, oh, stigma. I don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, interesting. Well, it was nice chatting with you. I actually got to get going. My friends just texted me. I got to catch up with them. Like, man, really? Just because of like what they identify as. Like, they're not even identifying as a garbage man. They were answering a question.
I think it's funny when like that happens and then say they just go out, they're like, all right, well, my car's out here, I'll see you. And they walk out and they hop in like a Lambo. I think it's hilarious when stuff like that happens.
Oh, you probably follow the same guy that I do on social media where he does like gold digger pranks and he's driving like, yeah. Those videos crack me up.
Like he'll try to pick up the girls and they're like literally leaning on his car and he's like, is this your car? He's like, yeah, this is totally my car. And she's like, how about you keep on moving? He's like, okay, bye. And then he beeps his car. He's like, get off my car.
Then it starts. Yeah, he's like, get off my car. Yeah, those videos are funny because like, I don't know. I think sometimes the world and like, obviously one of the huge things that I love about this podcast is like, as we talk about these different topics is like, I'm hoping that as people listen to us, that it helps inspire some change. or helps like people want to help inspire the change. Because I think like sometimes even ourselves, I mean, we're hypocrites at times too. I would say that like no one's perfect. There's obviously times where we could be judgmental and stuff too, and like that's a fault of just humanity. But like if we could just think about the identity that people identify as, like get to know someone as who they are. Don't get to know someone based on what they do. Like people's actions are important. Like I'm not devaluing if someone does a kind deed or someone does something bad. Like we're supposed to look at it and just be like, let's just brush it under the rug. That's not what we're saying. We're saying like people are able to like be themselves. Just look at them for who they are, not what they do. Like one funny movie thing that comes to mind. I know like as soon as I tell you this, you're gonna probably think it too. But you know the movie Anger Management where Adam Sandler's like in that first session? Yeah, Goose Brava. But he goes like, Dave, why don't you tell us who you are? And he goes, I'm a 39-year-old accountant. I do this and this. And he's like,
But Dave,
no,
tell us.
just tell us who you are. Exactly.
I don't know what
And that's what I think. Yeah, I don't know what the hell you're asking for. But like, I think that's what people need to do. Like, it's funny because like that clip itself, thinking back to like anger management, is like humanity sometimes identifies so much in their work and what they do and what they own that there are times we don't know how to answer that question, right? Like, who are you? Who like, and then you jump exactly to, okay, I'm in age, I identify as this age, I identify in this field of work, but like get to know who you are so when that question comes up, it's like, who are you? You can fully answer that question and not have to lean back on, well, I work in this field, I do this and this. Like, that wasn't the question that was asked. It's like, how would you describe yourself? You know, like, how do you identify? And I think that's really key.
And I just want to real quick throw this back to like a dying trend that's probably like not even relevant anymore. I remember back in the day that people would be like, oh, I'm like a 5-wing-4 or something like that. Like they'd identify as what their Enneagram was. Get out and actually talk to a person. Enneagram does not define you. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, sure, like you answer like the whole list of 100 questions, and that's great, but don't identify as your Enneagram type either. I mean, that's a dying trend, and I'm putting that out there. That's my bold statement of this week. Enneagram is dying. I don't think anybody really cares about it anymore. I mean, you and I are both happily married, and I want to say that my wife is not the compatible Enneagram type, but I'm extremely happy, and I'd say your wife isn't the Enneagram type that says that you're supposed to be compatible either.
I still don't even understand Enneagram, and
I
like,
think they just throw numbers out there at this point, honestly.
yeah, I mean, my question to you, and this is a mind blowing question, but how would you consider it dying if it's already dead?
I was trying to be kind, and I tried to say dying to be like it's in the progress, but yeah, it's dead. It is
No,
dead.
the Enneagram's dead. If you're trying to rekindle this Enneagram thing, like we're past the pandemic, we've understood that like calling people on the phone is more valuable.
Talk to people.
Yeah,
We
talk
see
to people.
face to face now. I mean,
But if you want to identify and just cross someone out, I mean, don't identify. That's the whole point of this thing. But yeah, that was a good conversation. I really enjoyed that. But now we got to roll into our favorite section.
MVP or hypocritical? We did one of those last week. I don't remember which one though.
Let's just do them both this week. I'm gonna go with. So I got mine's a two-parter. I'm just gonna throw this out right now. So like, there's two parts to this. The MVP of my category this week was this person driving a vehicle.
It's always the cars.
It's always the cars. They were driving an older Mercedes. I want to say it was a 2003 C-Class Mercedes. I only know because of the performance, and this is going to tie into the whole story of the vehicle. But I'm driving down this neighborhood, right? And it's a one-lane road. It's a neighborhood. For some reason, the person decides to get on like off on the right side to try and think they can blow past me. I'm at the front of the line at the light, right? So they're like veering off to the right, like they're gonna blow past me. You gonna clip that parked car that's in front of you in the parked car lane on the way and trying to cut me off? Like, what are you trying to do? And so they did that at a couple of lights, right? So I was kind of irritated. I was like, wow, this person's driving way too serious, to the point where they're like irritating me. This is where I get hypocritical, because I got super pissed off at this point. I was like, man, this person, I'm going to show them how this is done. So we get past all the lights, and there's a part where there's like a left turn lane. This person I see out of my rear view mirror starts to cut into this left lane, tries to blow by me. And I drive a Tesla, so these things go 0 to 60 in about 2.3 seconds, right? It don't matter what kind of car, unless you're driving some high performance car, you are not going to beat me in a race in this car.
Electric cars always win.
Yeah. So they try to fly past me. Me, I hit the gas too.
Well, you didn't hit the gas per se.
Well, yeah, didn't hit the gas, but I hit that pedal. I start to accelerate. This car stood no chance. So that's the part where I was the hypocrite. I took driving way too serious, because I was like, man, this person behind me right now is deciding to try and fly past me after they wrongfully came up on the right side into parked car lanes to try and pass me on a 1-lane road. Now they're trying to pass me in a left turn lane, which was meant for left turning into this apartment complex, not for passing. So I was like, nope, you're going to abide by the rules of the road. So I floor it. It couldn't get past me. And then we get to the section where like I'm turning at my place and to getting into my subdivision, I get in the left turn lane. The person looks at me like I did something wrong. Like, get out of here.
No, that person's 100% at fault.
Yeah. So that person, I wish I had the license plate, because I would totally call them out on this podcast right now, and then just put it out there for people in case they ever see this person. Because after they left, that's the other part to the end of the story. They blew a red light. I parked to like turn left, and they blew a red light right by my subdivision. Could have clipped the person that was turning left and started riding the ass of the driver that just pulled out from my subdivision and tried to pass them on the shoulder right after they tried to do that stuff with me. Ridiculous.
MVP crown handed out. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Almost for the year. When we look back, that might even be my MVP of the year. I'm not sure. I'm heated right now talking about it, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to pass it over to you. What's your MVP? Like,
you know what? In the spirit of things, I'll do a two-parter also of my MVP and hypocritical moment. My MVP is my neighbor, who has 2 dogs, and both he and she, both the wife and husband, take it way too serious, where they think they don't need to move anywhere, and they will stand their ground when they're taking their dogs to go to the bathroom, and I will try my best to go around them, because I don't want my dog and their dogs going like bananas at each other and basically barking. It's like, okay, I'm just trying to take my dog out to go to the bathroom. And they both have a habit of never wanting to move when they're the ones in the way. So they're my MVP of taking like things way too serious, where they just won't even be courteous. Like, you don't own this area. Like, move.
Yeah.
And they don't have any courtesy. Like, I will try to like literally go the long route so our dogs don't see each other. And this isn't really a hypocritical moment on my part, but the wife was right in front of my apartment door, and I'm like, I'm not going around. I can't. Like, that's literally my apartment. And I've said something to them multiple times, and they just don't move. So I was like, move. That's my apartment.
Why are they in front of your apartment?
Their dogs, I guess, want to go to the bathroom here. So, like, my door's right there. Huh. And she steps onto the sidewalk even more in front of my door. And I'm like, I live there. Move.
Oh, and that's annoying.
She's, like, moving very slowly. And I was like, get out of the way. Like, it was annoying as hell. And I was like, good gosh, move. And so she finally moves with her 2 dogs, because I keep walking. And her dogs start, like, barking and everything. I'm like, you're the one that wouldn't move. Like, I literally live here. Move. And so I see her walking by, and you know what I do? I say, screw it. I go up, I smack the window, and her dogs start freaking out, and she drops their poo-poo bags, and I laugh my butt off, because that was hilarious.
Now I can see why this was a 2-parter with the hypocritical. You were getting heated telling that story.
It's because they both don't, like, have any common courtesy. Like, there's a thing called dog courtesy, where if you're going one way and you see another person with a dog, like, just go a different way. Try to not, like, let the dogs, because you don't know if the dog is going to be, like, a good behaved dog or not. So just play it safe, go a different way. Like, it saves us all trouble of, like, the dog's barking, we have to, like, pull them away. And they just don't have it. They don't have dog courtesy. And I'm like, I hate you. Like, me and my wife say all the time, we hate this apartment complex. We can't wait to leave. We are ready.
Yeah. Oh man. Dang. Dog courtesy is a whole nother thing, man. Like, yeah, I mean, we struggle with some of that stuff too. Like people let their dogs run up. We've seen them like off a leash and stuff, and like there's pretty big ordinances against that here in our complex too. I don't know why people still let their little pugs run around like that, but
they're like, oh, they're well behaved. It's like, okay, the rules don't apply to you, apply to you still just because your dog's well behaved. That's fine. It doesn't have like an asterisk in the rule. It says put your dog on a leash. Period.
Yeah, unless the dog's name is Fido.
Yeah, even then, Fido should get on a leash.
Weird side note, I've never actually met someone who said their dog was named Fido. So I kind of think Fido is kind of a dumb dog name now that I think about it. Apologies if anyone's dog's name is Fido.
They're probably a good boy or girl. Okay, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Well, anyways, this has been fun chat with you, man. And thanks to all you guys who's been listening to this. This is the Way Too Serious podcast, but we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Josh signing off. Peace.